Hey.
Hey, don't mean to intrude. Where are my manners? Name's Josey. Just couldn't help but notice you were reading one of the Coalition's flyers. Listen, I ain't any kind of snake oil salesman. I just thought you should know that those folks aren't all they say they are. All I got to say is if you're in it for money or action, you're better off joining up with the Booth Barons. Set up all the way to the south, the old civilian airport. They like to pretend they're all altruistic and whatnot, but the truth is they ain't any better than any of those old Vegas gangs. If you're really interested in what they think of outsiders, you ought to go look at the old Prim Station. 3 families turned to charcoal and ash. I'm surprised you haven't heard of us, but suppose word travels slow around the boonies. Buck Booth and his boys run a large supply industry out of NCR. Right now we're in a bit of a scuffle with the local fauna. These Coalition thugs have been keeping us from establishing ourselves here in the Mojave. Like I said, if you're looking for good paying work, Buck's your guy, but do mind yourself around him. He's a bit on the brash side. I keep my talks with him brief myself. Not a problem, friend. Just looking out for my fellow man.
Evening.
Eye on target. Eye on target. Goddamn heat is making my balls itch.
My trigger finger's getting itchy.
Nice scar.
So, you're the newest associate recruited by my dearest partner, Josey. Now, if you don't mind my intrusion into your clearly rocky past, I couldn't help but to focus my scrutiny upon that ungodly scar on your forehead. It seems as though you may perhaps be the courier who received an ever so lucky shot to the cranium. Very nice. Being a man who fondly enjoys the vice of poker, I often relate baroning to a game of cards. I need to stack my cards and stack them well. There's something about you that just screams ace in the hole. What we need is some fucking mystique. A kind of energy that puts fear into the minds of less complex men. Men like these inbred cowboys organizing. Like the asinine little worker ants they are. I have all of the firepower I need, you see. But weapons can only do so much to a man. See, if I wanted to, I could take my friends from the Navari Mercenary Company and have them storm right into the Coalition's ranks and cease the uprising right there. But that's not really a solution, now is it? You see, this isn't exactly gall. The difference between your average Republican and a Mojave rancher is negligible. If we want the public support, we need a narrative. A dark knight, like the courier, could easily assist us in this craft, provoke the coalition into hostilities, fabricate our own little Pearl Harbor, and boom! We've got Congress signing off death warrants. But a real emphasis on the narrative. It's imperative that we go about this carefully. And I won't lie to you, you're going to be getting your hands dirty, no doubt. Rest assured, you do as I ask, and philanthropists from California will be kneeling at your fucking doorstep asking to give you their money. No worries. Let me dumb it down a bit. The coalition leader, Mr. William Roscoe, has a particular vendetta against my colleagues and I. This coalition he's founded is just as much shrouded in a personal revenge fantasy as it is true justice for the Mojave cattlemen and farmers. But say someone in the Justice Department finds a few offenses on his record, say arson, failure to report the destruction of personal property, and tax evasion. Suddenly, the White Knight is looking a little gray. Of course, these offenses are nowhere near justification to barge into his fortress filled with armed guards. But if he were to provoke hostilities toward any kind of Republic expansion project, well, suddenly an unkempt fugitive is inciting a violent rebellion against Republican citizens. And with the military embedded in this conflict with the Legion, there's no telling what private enterprises Congress might turn to in order to pacify Gaul. Raiders are maniacal serial killers, rapists, and drug addicts. I'm no more raider than you are an ape. Sure, I kill, as does a raider. But I'm a businessman first. My motives are driven by a sense of bureaucracy, economics, and established order. Con men, on the other hand, are pseudo-capitalists who trick consumers into paying money for objects that give the consumer false or undergrounded value. What I'm selling is of incredible value. In 2 years, all of this territory will be up for grabs. Congressmen, stockbrokers, philanthropists, such as myself, are all going to want their own slice of real estate on the Strip or Lakeside. But therein lies the problem. We have yet to absolve the yokel flavor of their ignorant claims. Fiends, vipers, jackals. We know how to deal with them. But when cattlemen and farmers revolt, we tend to do little but appease them. But to remain idle during this delicate time is to allow barbarians free reign over Gaul. What good is the war effort if we allow sectionists to have free reign over our fief? Chaos would ensue, and violence would be more persistent than that of the fiend occupation. Therefore, one, such as myself, must operate a precise level of social and economic security upon the region. I am not a follower, nor OSI, ergo, it is not my duty to be generous nor scientific in my approach. It stands that I am a hammer, my duty crude, yet necessary to sanctify the integrity of the Republic proper. Fret not, my friend, for I control the narrative back west. All I have to do is slip a few $1,000s under the table and suddenly, you're in the papers being hailed as a hero to Republic citizens. Hell, if you do a particularly good job, I might not even need to do that. You'll look like Mark Antony coming back from Gaul. And sure, a few rubes might hold a grudge against you for backing the NCR, but they'll be either dead or kissing our feet within the years to come. What's not to gain? A blank check, your own ranch, and plenty of good words back west. Hell, if you do as I say, I'll even request that the president write you birthday cards. Aside from material incentives, and as much as Kimball hates to admit it, expansion is our only way to prevent the NCR dollar from crashing, which is where I enter frame. If this operation is successful, I can single-handedly and exponentially raise the NCR dollar's value in the coming years. The Republic will enter a golden age of economic growth. So, the die is cast. Now, I'm in the process of drawing up our first course of action. Admittedly, I was waiting on your verdict. So, while I dot the I's and cross the T's, why don't you have a look around? And when you're ready, I'll have an assignment for you. Oh, and take this. Consider it a signing bonus of sorts. yes. Sure, I suppose I could push aside this heaping pile of shit in order to feed your curiosity. I bore easily with inquiries regarding my history. I'm sure you could find a few biographies of me back in the NCR, but I presume you won't be heading that way anytime soon, so I'll humor you in the meantime. My father, Jonathan Booth Jr., and his father before him were heirs to the throne of NCR real estate. My great-grandfather, Sigmund Booth, was a regulator in what was then called the Boneyard. Sigmund worked in Adytum under a man named Caleb. They were promptly wiped out by a rival gang. But Sigmund fled as soon as he'd seen the first signs of trouble. Eventually, he was able to re-infiltrate Adytum and became the de facto leader of the town. Not long after, NCR expansion came to the doorstep of the Boneyard. Sigmund cut a deal with the NCR to inherit a generous amount of the Boneyard in exchange for NCR jurisdiction of Adytum. A clever move, if you ask me. From then on, our family became trusted philanthropists. We regard ourselves as the Dark Knights of NCR expansion, an inglorious yet necessary force of progress. To the outside eye, we are seen as corrupt and self-centered. But there are indeed real people who benefit as a result of our work. As the Republic continues to grow, as do our expectations of infrastructure and commodities, we supply both of those things. It's all about the theatrics. Nobody believes a Brahmin Baron named Robert Booth. No, they want to put their trust in an honest, grassroots man. Buck Persone! I've even delighted in developing a slight accent for the pressers. The commoners get a hard-on hearing my colloquial speech. I remember when I was just a boy working on my pa's ranch shoveling Branham dung. Now, we are over 1,000 ranch hands looking to fulfill the same dream I had way back then. That's a very simple question for a long-winded and complicated answer. I suppose, to summarize it to a reasonable length, I'd like to bring Vegas's potential to full realization. Imagine a downtown filled with affordable luxury hotels, endless buffets, and glasses which never empty so long as your pockets remain full. Freeside is not a slum, but a beautiful, clean neighborhood, abundant with small businesses, boutiques, salons, bars, entertainment venues. And at the heart of the city, an empire of intellectuals and capitalists, showing everyone the staying power of our republic. Sure, the government will be curating the big picture, but every real estate owner in the city will be thanking us for their success. It's really a win-win. Vegas goes from a city of sin to a beacon of hope and luxury. And for us, the money and altruism piles into our corner. Most of them are peons, people who come to me in times of debt. In exchange for my assistance, they lend me their unquestioning servitude. And believe me, these are no helots. They're well-fed and well-paid for their work. Now, if a baron under my command shows a particular skill set, I typically promote this individual to junior aristocrat. They go off to more high-risk places, like Baja, to manage my assets. On the daily, the barons are merely pawns, a multitude of faceless bodies. Sure, they can take on some high-risk operations from time to time, but their casualty rate is still eons lower than that of the NCR infantry. And to sugarcoat my exoneration further, any operation which requires intense militancy is more often than not delegated to third-party mercenary organizations, like that of my dear colleague, Captain Killman. A whole lot of nothing for the most part. But I may or may not have found some of the last oil reserves in the southern United States. Big money for the military. But the locals aren't exactly fond of our drilling operations. Not long ago, I managed to strong-arm Kimball into sending our rangers down there to quell a Legion-backed rebellion. Still waiting for the reports to come back. My thoughts. Well, my thoughts are that this could have been a landslide victory if the defense contractors stopped being cheap asses and actually invested in their infantry regiments. If every trooper was outfitted with merely half of the armaments as our friends in the Navari Mercenary Company, the entire road to Flagstaff would be stained in crimson. Instead, they're wearing body armor, if any, as thin as a baby gecko's hide, and their guns are more effective as bats than they are as firearms. But I've been working on a solution to that. Once I'm through with this campaign, I'll be dedicating a healthy amount of Vegas's production sites to R&D for the Army. It'll be a good publicity stunt for my inevitable campaign against the defense industry. Oh, that. Listen, I'm not usually shy to divulge information about a person's past, but Josey is a close business partner, and doing so may jeopardize our relationship. So if you have any questions regarding Mr. Deacon, I'd take it up with him. Thank God. This was starting to feel like a presser. Persistent little fucker, aren't you? Yes, I have a job ready, or rather, multiple jobs. Our first objective is to take away key potential allies of the Coalition. Intelligence reports suggest that there are two groups with the potential to turn the Coalition into a strong force. The first place, Wolfhorn, is a small commune nestled due west of here. Now, typically, a ramshackle town of hippies wouldn't bother me. But in this case, letting them join the Coalition could become deadly. Sources indicate that the commune has a small militia of deserters from the NCR 1st Pioneer Company. They aren't your everyday conscripts. They are veterans in desert warfare and defense doctrines. I'm thinking with enough buying power, we can work out some sort of deal with them. If not, come talk to me. I have an ace on the table, and one up my sleeve if it needs be. The second place is Cash Ranch, a rather quaint farm on the outskirts of Vegas, home to a few artisan farmers. Their intellectual property has won numerous strip awards for outstanding products. Needless to say, these two have some serious weight with the locals. If the Coalition is able to pull them into the conflict, then their numbers will double overnight. What's in our favor here is their age. I sent an envoy a while ago to plant the seed of their retirement in New California. Despite that, the talks have been slow. We need them gone before the Coalition reels them in. Ultimately, I leave the discretion in your hands. Anything short of explicitly killing them will do. Cut them a check, sabotage equipment, scare them away. Your options are endless. Now, I'm sending Mr. Deacon to accompany you. He's an experienced ex-ranger, so he'll act as your overseer and operations expert. Put him to good use. As much as I disdain the thought of having to do this, they may leave us with little choice. I may have procured a questionable asset who is yet to repay a debt to me. NCR's most wanted Viper leader, Chief Ironclad. We ran into him during our rail line construction on the way into the Mojave. Being a man who likes to keep a few odd cards, I let him go. Within arm's reach, that is. If the card is in your hand, better make use of it. Tell him that he is to raid the commune and leave no survivors. From there, you and a few barons will clear the camp of him and his barbarians. No loose ends. Ironclad suffers from a plethora of mental issues, probably from years of rattlesnake ceremonies. He's very rash and tends to be on the paranoid side. Honestly, I'll be relieved when you kill him. He's a ticking time bomb, and I was afraid I wouldn't be able to squeeze anything out of him before he goes off a cliff. Once you spend enough time in politics, you'll learn that it's all about public perception. It's funny. Killing deserters is frowned upon, but killing raider tribes appears to be the newest fad in Republican media. We've been monitoring him near the Crescent Canyon overpass. You'll probably have to give him some kind of offering. If I recall, Night Stalker blood is traditional. Oh, and when you kill him, you'll want to bring back his head. Barbaric, I know. But if you want the cash on his bounty, you'll need to show proof. Now good luck and good hunting. I'm sure you do.
Shoot. I just might have the answer. Listen, I ain't bothering you about the bullet-sized scar on your forehead. This is mercenary work. We don't air out dirty laundry in this business. Maybe once this is all said and done, we can get a beer and talk feelings. Until then, leave it at the fucking door. I just might have the answer. I used to be a ranger back in the day. Not the ones wearing coats and riot gear. The real rangers. I was a patrol ranger. Usually performed scouting missions. My only real operation was during the first Battle of the Dam. I took a blade to the leg escorting some pioneer infantry out of Boulder City. Got discharged, met my husband, settled outside Prim. My husband, on the other hand, was more politically involved. Turned out to be the cause of his demise. I just might have the answer. I always fancied ranger life over trooper life. Lots of time out there on your lonesome, nothing but you, the sand, and your instincts. Not a time for self-reflection. I remember the old-timers from before unification would always boast about how much more honorable they used to be. How the NCR turned them into a bunch of high-octane political pawns. I never really understood what they meant, at least not until I met Brian. When we met, I was on the Kimball election team, back when he was a beloved war hero. It was our second or third date when he showed me all these documents. Correspondence, bribes, quid pro quos. They were dealing ranger battalions like luxury chems. I tried to finish up my 5-year contract with them, but after the dam, I'd had it with their bureaucratic bullshit. Filed for discharge, fought tooth and nail to get it through. Got honorable all the way up to brass, then suddenly I got accepted as other than honorable. I just might have the answer. I had a husband, and a boy, too. I just might have the answer. About as legal as anything they did before we bagged them. This ain't slavery. They get well fed, good rest, and have a right to a fair trial. We gather a load of them up before shipping them off to Barstow for their hearings. And if, for whatever reason, they're found innocent, we reimburse them for their trouble. Otherwise, correctional work is granted under NCR jurisdiction, so long as the apprehended are treated humanely. I just might have the answer. We're old acquaintances from New California. He was a business partner with my husband on an extensive campaign to push Kimball into office. Before I joined the Barons, I hadn't talked to him in years. But during a brief and destructive down spiral, he pulled me out of the Shady Sands dive bar and offered me a job. As much as I tend to despise his kind of personage, I owe him for that one. God knows I'd have eaten a bullet had he not taken me under his wing. I just might have the answer. No, none of them are legally permitted to be under NCR enlistment. They're a private military company owned by Captain Kilman and Booth. Most are from the disbanded NCR Cal Navari Battalion, roughly 300 of the NCR's most brutal rejects who are sent to quell a tribal rebellion near Bullhead. They killed upwards of 2,500 insurgents. By the time the 3rd Cavalry and 2nd Ranger Battalions arrived, there was nothing but skulls and bones left to pick. Ironically, folks in the brass weren't too happy about spending so much money on a short-fused campaign. In response, they 86th the Cal Navari Battalion under the rationale of budget cuts. Booth and Kilman, being close with General Oliver, worked out a deal. Booth buys out the contracts, and they're redesignated PMEs, private military entities. If I had to summarize him in one word, Kilman. No, the name seriously fits his personality. He's what's described as a soulless killing machine. He used to be a colonel for the NCR 1st Cavalry. That was until he wiped out an entire village of raider families because the town was a great base camp for yaguai hunting in the mountains. One of his sayings used to be, "Tango don't hunt." Well, I guess Oliver took a liking to his methods because the two got drinks and talked strategy. Not so sure about that nowadays. Oliver ain't exactly regarded as the next Aaron Kimball. Alright.
Listen here, numbnuts. We ain't accepting any new recruits, especially ones that look like overdressed mailmen. So go on and scram before I tie you to a Brahmin's rear.
Nice scar.
Can't wait to see the paycheck on this job.
Shoot. I just might. In the world of bureaucracy, there's a very clear expectation for economic returns for war. In the case of President Peterson's executive order toward Bullhead, he convinced the brass to commit nearly 4,000 personnel to a distant front. When you're investing upwards of 100,000 NCR dollars, you feel pretty entitled to milk your occupation for everything it's worth. When 3,000 personnel show up to an empty battlefield, they ain't exactly eager to come back empty-handed. They're doing it right now on Prim. Make yourself visible, let the fire grow, and allow the locals to get desperate. Then, when they come knocking at your HQ with offerings of invaluable resources, money, or even offering occupation, now that's when you've got the fish on the hook, so to speak. That's how the brass likes to operate. The army doesn't want heroes, they want followers, fanatical minions. The Navarre Company ain't that. Like I said, they're war dogs. They shoot first, count cash later.
Shouldn't have eaten that iguana last night. Ugh.
Contact. Front.
Got something for you.
We shouldn't be here. This motherfucker is responsible for a lot of deaths in the NCR. It's testing my patience not to shoot him.
Who is this outlander so bold as to march into the abode of Chief Ironclad? Have you come to be my assassin? We are the peoples of the way. We follow the viper of the desert, the gods of the pit. We may seem backward to the civilized eye, but we are as close to the gods as any. My patience wanes. Be weary of your questions, outlander. They may be interpreted as insults. I am called Chief Ironclad of the Vipers. I am the last remaining warlord of the tribe. Planning out our exodus from the Mojave. Slowly, my people are wearing thin. The great bear may grow mighty, but the viper hides in the bushes, patiently waiting for the moment to strike. We have been feeding the pit behind us in order to bolster our strength. The gods will honor our sacrifices in time. The pit of the gods is a sacred site where we honor the great ones by feeding them the flesh of our enemies. The gods speak to the chief during the ceremony of venom and guide us to the nearest feasting grounds. Venom kills indiscriminately and flows through my veins. I simply follow the ways of the venom. We are not in a state of war. We only wish to feast and honor the gods at this moment. Words spoken, I do not recommend you provoke such hostilities. May the gods spare you.
Don't be causing a stir. A lot of vets here in town.
Hi. I don't think I've seen you around before. I'm Dr. Vestch, the lead researcher here at the ranch. If you have any questions, I suppose I'm the one to ask. Well, before we founded the commune, it was a courier's ranch. Don't know much about him, aside from being a tribal man. Never figured out where he was off to. Traders said he just up and left one day. Since then, we've retrofitted the place to our needs. Our research is focused on finding new methods of livestock, ones that don't require us to factory farm Brahmin as they do back west. The most successful project has been rad scorpion domestication. Turns out, there's quite a market for it too. Folks in the sand flats have been hunting them down for over a century. A few genetic tweaks, and they're as friendly as a Brahmin calf. Our latest objective has been golden gecko domestication. They have a pretty sought-after taste, but due to their aggressive nature, it takes a pretty cap to get your hands on good, quality golden gecko fillet. This, of course, leads us to the here and now. Goldens, being thick-skinned and elusive, means a need for more manpower and resources, both of which we're deficient in. I should have a few moments. Go ahead. Yeah, some courier. Seemingly a legionnaire. I think Todd, our senior fieldman, knew him. He used to hunt on these lands back when the guy still lived here. He could likely tell you more. By all means. Not much different from any other wasteland community. We're a group of like-minded individuals who consensually pile together our labor for public benefit. We aren't any kind of cult commune. We still retain personal possessions, make money, and have law. We just like to keep things small and tight-knit, away from distant influences. By all means. Used to be a follower of the apocalypse. Still am, I guess. Took a step too far on a whistleblowing operation and got tangled up in NCR politics. Got chased out of town by some thugs and fled to Nevada. Most of my time here was spent drinking and contemplating if I'd ever go back home. I decided whatever happens in the West happens. Not a ton I can do when congressmen pay thugs to kill the opposition. Met a few good friends in Buchanan and Todd. Shared our sorrows over many drinks, and eventually came to the conclusion that we ought to make change in the world. Todd had a place in mind to set up shop, and the rest is history. I was hired by a local NCR detective to help investigate a big-time rancher. From what I was told, locals were getting violently ill after eating meat from the guy's Brahmin. I don't mean a stomachache or the runs either. Patients were experiencing everything from stomach ulcers to tumors, acute radiation sickness. You name it, they had it. The detective and I snuck through the fence at night to poke around. We found that the company was mixing radioactive waste into their cattle feed. We broke the case and got the owner detained. Once we went to trial, he claimed that some pseudoscientist told him that the Brahmin were able to digest radioactive chemicals. He said the illness was just a local bug. Thought with all the evidence piled, it was a case closed. Then, the night before the verdict, I woke up to the detective screaming through my hotel window. He told me to barricade the doors and run. The last I heard of him was in the New Arroyo Times. Shot himself in his hotel room. By all means. Barter has been around since the dawn of mankind. We offer our services for mutual benefit to other small communities. Sure, we accept payments for our work, but we're just as willing to perform a job for 15 caps as we would be for 500. Any form of excess we produce is stockpiled and reinvested into our community. Well, just let me know if you have any more questions. The Brahmin Baron? And what makes you think we're interested in selling? We came out here to escape NCR politics, not to be victim to it. Listen, we're reasonable people. And if the NCR is closing in on this territory, we'd like to keep away. But we're in no shape for an exodus at the moment. If you could help us get better armed and supplied, we should be able to get out of your hair. No harm, no foul. Talk to Todd and Buchanan. Once you help them, we can get out of your hair.
Engage the target.
Fucking Deacon. What the hell are you doing here? Actually, I can't say I do anymore. Having our own show out here.
Lieutenant Buchanan?
Josey fucking Deacon. What the hell are you doing here?
Still working for the NCR. You know how it is.
Actually, can't say I do anymore. We're running our own show out here. Say.
Right, will do. Nice catching up with you.
Make it quick. Sorry, but I've got sandbags to fill and defenses to build. We've had these vipers on our asses for months, and they won't let up just because I'm talking to some waster. I build things and manage our security around the ranch. Used to be a part of the NCR Pioneer Company, so I know my way around a hammer and a rifle. Hell, sometimes I just use my nail gun to do 2 jobs in one. It's a humble little nook. We're just a bunch of dreamers trying to stand up for what we believe in. We don't care about outside politics or opinions. We're just doing our own thing, and most people respect that. Not for long, though. If the NCR takes over the Mojave, places like this will be swarming with barons. We've been trying to get a plan worked out, but with the fucking vipers up our asses, we can't plan any further than the next attack. Alright, make it quick. Hell, I got plenty of those. But the one that broke the Brahmin's back was the battle at Hoover Dam. Oliver's primary infantry battalion was getting overrun by Legion forces. They blitzed them right up the ass, and Oliver needed a bailout. We were in the back digging in for tactical withdrawal when some errand boy came running to me. Gave me Oliver's orders. Handwritten, but not his hand. He never leaves paper trails. Our orders were to fight through the Legion forces occupying the western half of the dam, get on the towers, and mount whatever MGs we can get a hold of. What he didn't tell us was that the Legion were already charging into the eastern bloc, and what he needed was covering fire to withdraw. Second we set foot on the East Dam's road, we were flattened by an entire century of men. My boys were only armed with bolt-action rifles and grease guns. No way in hell we could have fended off a blitz force that large. We got cut in half within 15 minutes, so I did what any good commander would do. I pulled my men out of the meat grinder. Lucky for us, the Rangers showed up just in time. Never been so excited to see a trench coat in my life. So I don't give a fuck what Oliver says about his infantry. The Rangers are the heart of that fucking army. Without them, the dam would be flying another flag. Alright, make it quick. Used to be a lieutenant in the 1st NCR Pioneer Company. Thought I did a decent enough job while Kimball was in charge. Then that shithead Oliver took over. Never met a guy who could royally fuck up to the nth degree, and every time he would, a CO down the ladder would take the fall and formally resign. Should have seen him coming for me when my platoon was assigned to forward defense. Alright, make it quick. Yep, Fall Guys. Oliver always had one in place. He never writes his own orders. Hard evidence right there. So a junior CO writes it down for him. Good commanders like Shu get pushed to the back to clean up Oliver's mess. Alright, make it quick. everyone in the NCR Army knows Shu's competence flattens Oliver's nepotism. Shu has more combat experience. He knows what it's like to be on the ground, fighting savages with a jammed rifle and leather fatigues. He doesn't rely on troopers to do the heavy lifting. He plays it smart and sends out rangers and specialists to prod the enemy. Oliver, on the other hand, is an insecure little prick. He's spiteful because the ranger saved his ass at the dam. Now he's so desperate to prove his troopers can carry the Republic that he sends them to the dam like a meat grinder. Never mind the fact that half of them don't have proper body armor, weapons, or training. At least when the fighting breaks out, the Legion will be outnumbered 3-1. We call him General Wait and See for a good reason. I mean, hell, just look down the road. A whole fucking garrison of NCR soldiers got wiped at Searchlight. We've been picking up the scraps left behind, and have yet to see a relief force in sight. Even if they don't want to roll with replacing Oliver, joint operations with Hanlon would be more efficient than Oliver's dictatorship. Talk about a Caesar on both sides of the river. Alright, make it quick. Most of them, yeah. The others are still deserters nonetheless. All from the NCRA. I don't command them like I used to, though. We've got a good thing worked out here. This ain't the army anymore. I mainly stick to organizing what needs to be done for our benefit. Drawing maps, finding weak points in their defenses, and organizing material shipments. Think we've done a damn decent job so far. Alright, make it quick. Ah, the old NCR Assault Pioneer armor. A bunch of repurposed riot gear the Rangers didn't need. Of course, you don't see this gear in the army anymore. It's too expensive to throw into the meat grinder. So when we deserted, we took the suits with us. It's probably the only thing that gives us an edge out here. Okay. Well, there is something. I sent a couple of Todd's boys over to Sloan to work out a deal with the workers. Few caps under the table for some building supplies to get stolen by the powder gangers. Problem is, I haven't seen them in days. They've got me worried, and I'm jonesing for answers. Go talk to a hammer swinger named Brittle. He's our contact.
Engaging target.
Tag him in there. Contact. Put him down.
Can I help you? Yep, left a couple of days ago. Sent them off with everything promised. Is there a problem with the shipment? Well, I told them to follow the railway till they hit Nipton. Better than following the road and running into all them convicts. They sounded pretty on board with my suggestions, so I'd check along there. Yep, all of us do. There's plenty to go around, and the NCR doesn't give a shit for pay or protection, so we don't give two fucks about whether they have a claim to it or not. See ya.
Damn robots on the strip have more firepower than a squad of grunts. You really trust them?
Do you need something? Coming from anyone else, I'd say they...
Put him down.
Give 'em hell.
Tag him in the bag.
What the hell are you doing here? Get your head down. They're gonna ambush any second. Thanks for the assist. Here, take this. We owe you one. Oh, how sweet of her. Yeah, we're fucking coming. As soon as we get the Brahmin wrangled up and strapped back to the carts. Why don't you give me a hand and we'll get moving? You can tag along back to camp. Finally, let's get moving.
Make it quick. Ah, hell. Here I was thinking we got screwed out of the deal. Thanks. These supplies will get us a long way. Yeah.
Howdy. Sure. Sure as heck am. Born and raised in Prim. Mom and Pa died a few years back, so I fancied myself a fresh start somewhere else. Never was too fond on settling down there. Always seen the open range as my home. Used to be a cattle driver from here to California. Them days is long over now, though. Ain't no damn money since the Barons took over the industry. Now I was just a hunter. Oh, just a bunch of outcasts coming together to do things bigger than themselves? Hell, we know the potential of shit like this. We can really feed people out here, and good food, too. I'm telling you, get out into them sand dunes and there ain't a goddamn thing for miles aside from rad scorpions. But if you can teach people to tame them, you won't have to spend all damn day hunting them. Or hell, maybe you're out in the canyons of Utah and trying to settle down. Well, all you's got out there are wild geckos and bighorners up in the mountains. Geckos a little easier to maintain over horners. A lot of our research ain't necessarily gonna benefit all them rich folk back west. Sure, we can sell it to them as some kind of fancy golden gecko farm. But most of this shit's gonna be benefiting them folk out on the fringes. Oh, yeah, that feller. To be quite honest, I don't really know him, per se. I passed through here quite a bit during my cattle driving days and found this place to be a nice little pit stop. He was friendly enough, I suppose. Always gave us fair prices for water and food. But goddamn, this motherfucker would not shut the fuck up about bears and bulls. It ain't even like he was making bad points or anything. Just always caught us off guard whenever he talked like that. Since we moved in, though, we's been awfully creeped out by his shack. Looks like he'd gone mad before he stormed off. I personally stay the hell away from it. Alright. Oh yeah, you bet I do. We're a little short-handed on men and supplies, and with talk of us leaving the ranch behind, we're gonna need to be well armed. Buchanan put me in charge of finding us some better weapons while she works on getting us some supplies. I caught wind of some convicts who've holed up in an old mine near NCRCF. Tons of stockpiled weapons in there. If you could get us those weapons, we'd stand a good chance out there. Don't even worry about hauling them back either. Just find the weapons and report back. Our boys will do the heavy lifting. Have a good one.
Engaging target. Engaging target.
We've received an intel report from a surviving NCR CF guard detailing a potential threat to our supply lines. He stated that the warden had stashed a stockpile of military-grade weapons and explosives in an old silver mine to the north. It doesn't take an OSI scientist to see that these weapons could turn the region into a war zone. We need to act quickly. We're granting you command of a few troopers from the Army's 5th Battalion, 1st Company. Your objective is to infiltrate and analyze the situation. If the weapons are accessed and dispersed, report back to our forward station in Prim immediately. If they remain out of access, your team is tasked with scuttling the cache. Good luck and stay safe out there.
Feels good to
Ranger
stretch my legs
Jackson,
again.
Out.
Contact. Front.
Warden Nathaniel Harding, September 30th, recording this in case something happens. I was assigned to this operation years ago, and initially it was an efficient operation. We had all the manpower and resources we needed to keep these guys on the right side of the walls. Now, with the Legion breathing down the Colorado, I'm lucky to be at 50% manpower. Hell, it was just last week that Oliver took 3 of my best men.
Well, I can't sit idly by while Cook and his boys plan up a storm. I've been sneaking off at night and whipping this place into action.
I've got it stocked like a Brotherhood bunker, and on the off chance that we have to use it, I'm hoping it holds firm like one too. Warden Nathaniel Harding, signing off.
Sweating like a whore in church. Good to be on the road.
Degenerate.
Howdy. Well, shit. Honest to God, was afraid the weapons would be gone. Just heard there might be some left through the grapevine, but it sounds like I've got some trusty sources. I'll send our boys out there to grab what they can. You just saved a lot of lives. Thanks, kid. Take some goodies to keep you going out in the desert. Have a good one.